Well, a very, very happy Friday, and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is November 21st of 2025. And on today's episode, we're just going to kind of ease on into the weekend as we mainly cover what's going on here in our hot topic sports, primarily in Cincinnati. I got some stories I want to discuss. Those include the use of Elly De La Cruz while he was injured midway through the 2025 MLB season. I've already kind of heard this story that kind of unfolded earlier this week, and people took to social media. Some were, okay with it. Some were very upset about it. So we will talk and give you our opinions. We'll also talk about the questionable status of Joe Burrow as he may get the nod from Zach Taylor to start in week 12, come back a bit earlier to play against the New England Patriots this Sunday. So we'll talk about that. Uh, you know, we are easing our way into the holidays. I know this is not a sports related topic, but you know, I'm just kind of interested to get your thoughts and your opinions. Thanksgiving's up, and it's if you have first of all, have you guys gotten your turkey or not? I've me and my family. I guess I would always say this, and I don't know why, but I always kind of get the bad luck motive out of all this, and what I mean by that is I have a tendency of when things go on sale not to have the money. So paycheck status that comes in, money flowing into, to pay bills and whatnot, they can put food on the table, kind of runs on a bi-weekly schedule. And the next time that we got paid, well, we will have income coming in will be this next Friday, not today, next Friday. And which means we got paid last Friday, right? And so for me, I'm trying to kind of plan this all ahead and be like, all right, when is the perfect time to get my turkey? I don't want to spend $1.98 a pound, but I like to get the best deal possible, and I like to have a selection available. And so I decided to make the move last weekend at one of our grocery stores here in town. The turkey was was originally marked for $1.89. It was a 20-pound turkey. And, I it was on sale for 99 cents a pound. And then I had a coupon, a 50-cent coupon for 50 cents a pound. And so I'm just kind of like, all right, this is my perfect time to get a turkey. People are you are 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving. Um, there's other things on that list that I'm gonna need to get closer to time. For example, pumpkin pie. We like Hawaiian rolls. Those could be scarce to come by, but you don't want to get them too far in advance because those are perishables that could go bad before Thanksgiving. So we've been trying to get a lot of our dry foods like the green beans, the yams, uh, the mac and cheese, the mashed potatoes, which obviously those are essentials that you keep on your house, at least in my household on a weekly basis. But turkey is a big thing, and I got to time it up just right. I don't have a big freezer. I don't have a huge refrigerator either. So I got to be able to find a place to store everything at. And usually for me, I don't get the run of the deal. I just come at the bad time, where everything is sold out. And I'm sure grocery shopping this weekend is going to be terrible. Um, I know I gotta still run to a store and get the last few things on our list, and I hope I can be able to get them and then try to find. Hopefully, they could store all week long, just so we could cook it and enjoy it on Thursday. you know. Um, but I'm just curious about what you guys do. Are you good? Do you guys wait into the very last second to go Thanksgiving shopping, or do you guys prepare ahead of time? I'm talking to my mother about Thanksgiving, and she's kind of always been the one where it's kind of if we've always had two turkeys in the freezer ready to go all year round. And normally she'd go buy a turkey at this time of year to replace one or to even just cook it at herself. Um, she's kind of more of that turkey on Thanksgiving, ham on Christmas, or a different meal on Christmas. So am I. Um, but unfortunately, it's one of those conversations that I think is subjective, and I'm just interested to learn what people do heading into Thanksgiving, because I know next week's not a lot, and so I want to hear what you guys have to say. The best way to share your thoughts that I will get back, that I can see, is by heading over to our YouTube page, TNC Sports Talk YouTube page, and find this video. It will be marked for November 21st, 2025, and leave us a comment in the comment section, and I'll share with you a couple of those statements provided, there. Sorry. Um, Anyways, another thing that I like to bring up, because this is around the time, is I'll probably talk about it a little bit more in December, and I know, look, I'm just trying to uh be more optimistic in my conversations, not always just directive, hard headed on sports, even though we'll get to that in the moment. But what are your takes? Have you guys started Christmas shopping? you know I know for me in my household, it kind of work it kind of sucks, because my youngest child, his birthday is at the beginning of October, and so the kids go back to school, the birthday's in October, then we get Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And usually, every time of year, and I'm sure a lot of families have this situation where things are a little bit tight. You have Christmas parties, Thanksgivings, all that stuff, and it's sometimes things are a little bit more financially strenuous for people around this time of year. And so, usually, the concept for our household is to start Christmas shopping in September, start getting those few things. And you have that plan going into the year. A lot of times it fails, but I'm sure no one's really ever ready for financial expenditures during Thanksgiving, during the holidays. But have people started their Christmas shopping? I remember growing up, and don't get me wrong, I think I miss some of those days where Thanksgiving, then you had Black Friday. So after you stuffed up on turkey, you go out to, Best Buy, GameStop, Walmart, and you'd wait outside that store, and there's a long line, and you'd bring chairs, it'd be freezing cold. And, as kids, you're like, man, I got to go to the bathroom, and there's no bathroom available. And your parents are like, man, just hold it, should have wore a diaper. But, I feel like some of those traditions have kind of slipped away now. I know I like it. There's a lot of chaos that happens during those times, and I appreciate stores taking initiatives to spread out some of their Black Fridays. I know at some point, I want to say it was Target, but they would start their Black Friday shopping week by week, starting in November. So in week one, you'd have these selective items, and week two, you'd have these selective items. So instead of everyone getting, or I've seen Walmart where they've done, oh, we're going to have these selective items in the morning, these selective items from 2 to 4 or 2 to 5, and then another set at the back end of the day. So, it kind of made it convenient for people. If you're looking for a specific item, instead of bombarding with everyone else, you could kind of come back at a time slot. It allowed less chaos at the stores. Now, as everything is on websites and ordering, and there's really no Cyber Mondays because everything is happening already. But I'm just curious, are you the one to wait until the last second? Because for me, waiting until the last second, really, initially, there's a good chance that I'm not going to get to it. And that's kind of my tail end of luck. I'm not going to get to something if I had to wait until the last second. And there's only a limited number of paychecks between now and Christmas that well, it's like, oh shit, we got to get going and wrap up. And now, giving credit, with some planning and, some pulling the strings, we were able to get a lot of our major stuff already accomplished. A lot of what's left is some minor things that we have to kind of just put together that we should be able to do towards the next month or so, um, to make Christmas complete. But man, it is tough times, and like I said, I do want to hear about it. So if you guys are interested in sharing your stories, please head over to our TNC Sports Talk YouTube page. It is a gaming channel, but I do have our audio podcast available. You would find today's date on November 21st, and um, leave a comment in the sections, and I'll even come back on here and share them. A little up to date, what's going to happen next week with Thanksgiving on the horizon. We will be only providing a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday episode. Nothing on Thanksgiving, nothing on Black Friday. With all that, so we're going to enjoy the weekend. So a shorter week, but we'll be back at it the following Monday, just so you guys get a heads up about what's going on with our upcoming podcast schedule. We'll still try to get on our gaming channel. We'll still try to get all the content uploaded as normal according to what the schedule is. I am behind on our wrestling. I'm trying to get that back and going, but right now there's just a little bit more work that I'm working on catching up since the postseason of the playoffs in baseball. So I'm working on that. I'm looking to hopefully maybe by the beginning of December get episodes back up in our WWE 2K universe mode, but stay tuned for all that information. All right. So tonight is going to be SmackDown, and we finish up actually tonight the first rounds of the Last Time Is Now tournament. Two more matches will take place. Carmelo Hayes takes on Bronson Reed, and Penta takes on Finn Balor. This is all heading into, the final, who's going to be John Cena's final opponent for December 13th in Washington, D.C., a Saturday night main event. You know, Finn Balor, part of the Judgment Day. Penta, has been at odds with Balor in recent weeks, or recent months. And so we'll see them collide. Carmelo Hayes, I think one of my favorites to excel. Carmelo Hayes, since coming up to the main roster, in my opinion, has not gotten a push and has kind of, for me, have been struggling to create a fan base and to get that push inside WWE to elevate himself. And this could be one of the things that maybe kickstarts Hayes's, run up on the main roster. And, Bronson Reed is part of, you have that Survivor Series match. I don't see a reason why he needs to advance in this tournament. Penta, he's a veteran out of this one. I would like to see Penta possibly maybe advance to the next round, but with Dominic Mysterio right now and what happened this past Monday in New York, with the 6-man tag match, I could very well see at least Finn Balor entertaining a next round contingency. So tonight, I'm kind of predicting Finn Balor and Carmelo Hayes to advance. Like I said, I would root for Carmelo Hayes to kind of go a bit further in this tournament. For me, it's about, I know John's, I know this has been said, and I have to agree with this. John Cena is about giving back to the company. I think if he had a chance to redo this all over again, then John Cena would probably take some time and work with the younger generation, trying to build up talent. He's doing some work with Dominic Mysterio right now, and I think it could only benefit Dominic in his career taking some wisdom from a veteran like John Cena. Carmelo Hayes still, is like I said, a young guy who probably needs to find his place within, within the mix. And that's one thing he's lacked thereof. He spent some time with, the Miz, and I don't think that really has gone so far. So, you know, I think that the opportunities over the next few weeks in this tournament should at least highlight the younger generation of talent, in my opinion. So that's who I'm rooting for. Interesting to know what you are going to root for. We learned that I believe we have to learn who else is going to be a part of Rhodes Punk, um, in the we're going to learn more developing stories regarding the Survivor Series match in the men's side, hopefully tonight. Um, so a lot of expecting a lot of good things coming from tonight's SmackDown that you could check out on the USA Network. All right. So our main conversation is going to be focused around Cincinnati news. There was a interview that was done on WLW earlier this week, and it said Reds, and it was so I'm going to kind of go off this article, but kind of give you some fillers in this conversation. On Thursday, Reds president of baseball operation, I was thinking it was Wednesday night, Nick Kroll, he clarified comments made the previous night. So he had a interview. Nick Kroll had an interview Wednesday night, and he clarified on Thursday that Elly De La Cruz about Elly De La Cruz's left quad injury. Kroll referred to De La Cruz's injury as a partial tear of his quadriceps on the Reds Hot Stove League radio program, which set off some buzz. Nick said on Thursday, and I quote, "It was a left quad strain, which was a partial tear," end quote. While noting that the individuality made the injury sound more serious than intended, medical websites do define the strain as a partial tear of a muscle. Either way, the injury nagged De La Cruz throughout the back end of the season, and it was not served enough to warrant sitting out. So the bottom line is, I wanted to point this out because the bottom line is that if you look at Elly De La Cruz's numbers before this indicated date, which was back in July, he was lights out. Towards the end of the year, if he's been dealing with this injury, it explains for a lot of reasoning of his lack of performance. And we hold Elly De La Cruz to a high standard because we consider him as one of the guys that we build this franchise around, and to set that tone for this Reds team to win ball games and make it to the postseason. The controversy about this situation is if you knew he was injured, whether it was a partial tear, full tear, why put your best player out there considering injuries? And a lot of things that I was hearing back related to protecting your pupil protecting your star given talent, protecting your future with the organization. And Elly De La Cruz is the definition of who we want to protect for the future of this franchise. So the argument on one side of the table is, knowing that he had an injury, why did we throw him out there? The other side of the conversation goes, well, players get hurt. It's a long journey from April to October. You do ask players to play not 100%. And, we're asking Elly De La Cruz, hey, we potentially are in the hunt for a postseason opportunity, and we need whatever you could provide us on a daily given talent. And my main resource is going to come from the Locked On Reds podcast, available on audio platforms as well as on YouTube. And I do understand both sides of the story. But we're in conversation for a potential postseason opportunity. And you look at the outcome. We did go to the wild card. Now, I know we didn't win a single game in the postseason this year, but it's a lot better start than we expected this ball club to have this season anyways. What I would honestly question is the managing skills or strategy towards utilizing Elly De La Cruz. I guess you analyze when you have a partial tear, it could heal on its own. There's really no given time. And even if you gave him a couple weeks off, the chances of it coming back is still significantly high. So that's one way to look at it. You could have, but if I knew that there was a partial tear, there was a partial injury for De La Cruz, and we still needed him, and he's still willing to play because we know Elly De La Cruz wants to be out there every single game, then you should have found ways to put him as the DH a little bit more than putting him on the field. Take something away from him. If not, implementing some more rest days. I want to take something that Locked On Reds podcast presented a couple months ago, and that was utilizing Elly De La Cruz specifically. And one of the arguments was, in fact, you got to give him more time to rest, more days off. Yes, we need him every single day as much as possible. But if instead of putting him out there 162 games a year, maybe you could put him out there 158 or 154 and give him selective days off. And they made a very solid point, and that I could even support. And that would be one of the concepts would, you're going to have a Monday or Thursday off. So give him the following, if it was a Monday, give him Tuesday off too. So he has back-to-back days. If it's a Thursday, give him Wednesday off. Usually that's a getaway day. Usually that's a day game. You're coming off of a game the Tuesday night. You got to come back out there early in the morning. You could do that at least once a month, and that's what? April, May, June, July, August, September, 6 days off. It's about 156 games that he'd play. The concept is to give him a day off where it feels like he's actually getting a day off to help keep him as healthy as possible. Because I think the last thing, as far as I know, the Reds don't want this. I know Nick Krall doesn't want this. I know, Terry Francona doesn't want this. I know that the fans don't want this. And I know Elly De La Cruz doesn't want this. But we put this kid in jeopardy, at risk, to do more damage that could define and change the way that he is playing the game of baseball and we could keep him out of action longer if we didn't take proper care. Because a partial tear equals just the amount of time to do a full tear. Once you do a full tear, that you gotta, you're done with. And I mean, I would have been upset that he would have been out for the rest of the year in September when we really desperately needed him. What I'm also upset about this is that this is the first time that I'm hearing it. I may be living under a rock, but I was not under the impression that Elly De La Cruz was injured. I was under the impression that everybody has slump days and he was going through one of those. So one, as a fan, we are criticizing a player who was injured and may had something in his way to perform at his top performance level. But I'm also upset because, like I said, I haven't heard anything about this, and I'm not saying like, oh, you need to go give me, breaking news whenever it happens. But I'm sure I would have read about it somewhere, and I didn't. And so if this was something that you hid from the fans for the rest of the year, I'm upset with Nick Kroll. I'm upset with Terry Francona. I'm upset with the Castellinis. I'm upset with the Reds medical staff because we deserve to know as fans about the health status of our ball players, especially as a top tier player like Elly De La Cruz. Everyone's important to know about their status. There would have been a little bit more leeway, in my opinion, understanding the condition that he's in, knowing that, he suffered an injury. There's no really treatment other than TLC. We're going to give him the best TLC while we can, but he also wants to be out there playing the game. I mean, for me, that would be satisfying enough, but apparently not. And that kind of gets under my skin. I hope whatever his injuries are at this moment, that he's able to get the proper care. And I hope that he's capable of going into rehab in this offseason and coming back stronger. This is a kid that we wrap our organization around. We put players on not for him, but that can, build good chemistry around him. He's locked in set at shortstop. I wish, with the DH right now available in the National League, is nothing new. Didn't just take place last year. I'm surprised they did not utilize that opportunity a bit more. And for me, I just call it poor management. And like I said, I don't know as far of the higher ups or the lowers down, who knew, who didn't know. But the bottom line is that we got to hold somebody accountable. And I right now hold Nick Kroll accountable. If this affects Elly De La Cruz moving forward, I'm never going to forgive Nick Kroll for this. This is an unpredictable move, and I don't appreciate it. So that was the twisting Reds information coming out of Cincinnati this week, and I thought it was something nice enough to share here at the end of the weekend. Yeah, at the end of the week, getting ready for the weekend. Our last topic is going to be the big elephant in the room. The Cincinnati Bengals take on the New England Patriots this Sunday at Paycor Stadium. Burrow is officially questionable for Sunday's contest against the New England Patriots. He was limited on Friday to receive a few reps than Joe Flacco during the portion of practice open to the media Friday morning. Bengals coach Zach Taylor said he will ultimately make the final call on whether or not Burrow can return from a turf toe injury that is sidelined since week 2. This is coming from Taylor. Okay, and I quote, We will take the time we've got, assess all the practice we have had this week. He's done everything he can try to put himself to get ready and go. Now I have to make the decision of what we do. The 6-year player did not have any setbacks in his most extensive weeks out of practice, being clear since November 10th. He was full participant at Wednesdays and Thursdays practice, which is great news, and took the reps with the team's first offense. Flacco, who is dealing with a sprained throwing shoulder, is healthy enough if needed to make his 6th consecutive start. When the headlines go back around to Joe Burrow. Now, we've been preaching about this since the injury. And that is, depending when he's capable of coming back, is going to be depending on where the Bengals lie in the standings and in the AFC. And right now, things do not look so well for the Bengals. Matter of fact, they ultimately need a desperate win all or go home scenario. They cannot afford to win another game if they want to give them any chance at making it to the postseason. Now, the good news out of this is that we've only lost one division game, and that was to the Steelers last week. We are 2-1 in the division. We still have 2 dances coming up here in the next month with Baltimore, both home and away. And we are home to the final game of the year against the Cleveland Browns. We will see at the back end of the year, I know the Dolphins are on one of them. Let me double check with you who's the other team. I think it's the Cardinals, but I don't want to give you misinformation in this. So, the Bengals, we have the Patriots, who are leading the AFC East division. Baltimore, Buffalo, who have been struggling, but just because they've been struggling doesn't mean it wouldn't be a challenge for us to handle, considering we will be in Buffalo for that one, the beginning of December, and I don't know what the weather's going to look like when we head out there. We'll come back home to Baltimore, and then we're in Miami, home to Arizona, and home to Cleveland. Currently, right now, 2 of those 7 games are at nighttime. If Joe Burrow comes back, I think we have a chance at beating Miami. I think regardless, we have a chance at beating Miami and Arizona and Cleveland. I don't want to mark those 3 games as a win because all of them needs to be a win. But our definitely biggest slate here is coming up with the Patriots. Although there's confidence issues with Lamar Jackson, they're a dangerous threat. And I'm going to have to say Buffalo is still a dangerous threat. So, like I said, we've been talking about this since week 2. If and when Joe Burrow's ready to come back, he's able to come back. Now, the first thing we have to ask ourselves is realistically, how does he feel? And I think it's great news coming from this angle where we can see him have 2 full completed day practices with the first string team throughout this week. It doesn't necessarily tell me that he's ready to come back, that he's 100%, but he's making an impressive run since his practice. Don't forget, he has 21 days, so I believe that goes out through next week, if I'm not mistaken, where he can practice with this team and it doesn't affect the 53-man roster. But this means that you're going to have to activate him to the 53-man roster if he's to play this Sunday against the Patriots, which means you'll have to let somebody go or move someone down. And what's that decision? That's all fine in the detail conversation there. But depending on how he was capable of coming back, I question if he's 100%. I still believe, and I know this is only a one man speaking, but I still believe that he should only come back if he's 100%. Not 99, not 88, 100%. I don't care how desperate we are for him to come back. Because when he's going to come back, he has his work cut out for him. He knows his backup is against the wall. He knows his offensive line isn't the strongest, and he's going to have to be able to move outside of the pocket or be able to adjust his game playing skills against that. And he's also going to have to sit here and put up 30, 40 points at least in order to give this team an opportunity to win each week. Because we already know what the defense doesn't do. They don't stop. And they definitely don't stop in the early going, in the late going when we need to stop. We lost missed opportunities last week. We lost missed opportunities 3 weeks ago against the Bears and to the Jets. And those should have been definitely different statuses where we walked away with victories. So his backup is against the wall. So that's the question. That's the ultimate question is, do we even entertain the fact that Joe Burrow even should return? It's not, can he return? I know he could return. I know he could play. But do I want him out there when we have no hopes of making it to the playoffs? Do I want him out there when, and risking getting injured again or something going wrong? I want him as healthy as possible. If our season's done with today, I'm focusing on next year. And when he's ready to play, week 1, ready to go. No injuries, no complications, nothing. Bubble wrap him, ship him off to storage. Don't let him see the light of day until next season because I don't want him to get hurt whatsoever. You have to, as a fan, I think it's great to see, hey, Burrow's going to come back. It's great. It's a new atmosphere. It's a new energy that's coming back. It gives us a little bit of hope that I think we all are looking for, especially heading into a couple of tough games. Okay. But as much as I want to see Joe Burrow return, I got to put that ego aside. I got to put that child fan base, goo eyes aside and not be blinded by what I think is right. It's about what is actually there because let's face it, let's look into this week alone. Trey Hendrickson is out. There are several top players out this game, and there's some big questionables. Cam Britt Taylor is questionable. Samaje Perine is out this week. We are dealing with the mid-season aches and pains. And I don't know if our structure offensively or defensively is enough to keep us going for the rest of the season. I'm hopeful. I want to be proven wrong. I love to be proven wrong. But until I see it, I have to talk about what's out there in black and white. And what's black and white is that there is a chance that Joe Burrow says, hey, I come back this Sunday against the Patriots. And it may not be this week, but there's a chance that he comes back this week, or, it may be next week or in 2 weeks, but he comes back earlier than what timeline says. And he re-injures his turf toe. 2, offensive line can't block and he gets sacked unbelievable amount of times. 3, our defense can't find the support underneath them to stop an offense, and we give over points where we can't catch up at. If you look back on week 1 and week 2, we got off to a slow offensive start. And that's already controversial because week 1, we've already been made clear we should have lost that game. We didn't because we capitalized on the Browns' mistakes. Within the next 7 weeks, we got 6 opponents. You're telling me 6 teams, which, by the way, 3 of them are in the playoff picture as we speak, but 6 teams are going to make mistakes for us to capitalize. And if anything is defiant over the last 2 months of football, we've seen the Bengals make more mistakes than the defense. And I think that's what comes around to it. You got to have the run game. You got to have a solid defense. You got to have a great special teams. And up in front, it's going to come down to who makes the mistakes, who gives up the ball. And the Bengals give up the ball. If Joe Burrow comes out and he gets hurt again, who do we blame? Who do we get pissed off at? Do I blame the doctors? Do I blame Joe? Do I blame Joe Burrow? You can't blame me because I'm not sitting here saying that, yes, although we're desperate for a Burrow return, that doesn't define whether or not we're good enough to make the postseason because you know the struggles we have with an excellent Joe Flacco, who probably, in my opinion, would be who has put up the same numbers as if Joe Burrow was going to play anyways. So if he gets hurt again, let's say this Sunday, let's say next Sunday, because he's wanting to come back early, who do we blame? Who do we point fingers to? Zach Taylor? I'll make a deal with you. If Joe Burrow comes back Sunday and he can lead us to the postseason, if he can stay healthy the rest of the year, great. I'll give up on supporting the Rams moving forward. If Joe Burrow comes back, let's say this Sunday. Yeah, this Sunday against the Patriots. Okay? And he could take this team and get to the postseason by any means, stay healthy, and be a contender in the AFC playoffs. I say, I'm done with the Rams. You know, they're a team that I was supporting. I'll devote everything just to Cincinnati and move forward. If Joe Burrow returns early, because this is considered early, right? We're 3-4 weeks early, in my opinion, because the initial date on the talent calendar was against the Dolphins, December 14th. There was a possibility now the conversation was Thanksgiving next Thursday in Baltimore, which I even thought that was quite early, in my opinion. I maybe come back when the Ravens are at home. But if he comes back this Sunday and he gets hurt, is taken out for whatever reason, I say let's all sign that petition and fire Zach Taylor. Someone has to be held responsible and get fired. Still, it won't resolve my anger. I'd say, fire Zach Taylor. I still blame Joe Burrow. How about that? That's what I say. Zach Taylor, you got a very big decision. Yes, you will have to assess everything that has came your way over the last 2 weeks, and I hope you make the right decision. I'm very optimistic. I want to see Burrow back on the field. I will be excited, astonished. I'd be off my seat to see Joe Burrow back on the field this Sunday. But I'm very optimistic on his return, and I'm not very fond of his return right now. Matter of fact, I'm not fond of his return at all this season. Like I've clarified this in weeks past. The best thing I think could happen to him is him to return during the Ravens game at home, him to return during the Browns game at home, make maybe a couple possessions, maybe the entire game. I don't care. That's my only limits. Otherwise, I don't want to see him, bubble wrap him, get him somewhere else because we need him healthy for next year. Because if you think this defense is bad this year, just imagine what it's going to be like without Trey Hendrickson. I can almost guarantee you Trey wouldn't be on this team next year. Look, there's nothing promising for Trey Hendrickson on this team next year. There's nothing. There's no improvement on the defense. Just because you may be able to have a couple of draft picks that could pick up some defensive players doesn't mean anything. Trey Hendrickson not only should go where the money is, but should go to a team that's going to give him an opportunity to compete in a Super Bowl and win. And that chance is long gone. So that's one big key issue that you have. That's another conversation for another time. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And wherever you guys are listening to our podcast, thank you for making us your podcast to listen to. Be sure to check our YouTube channel out. It is a gaming channel, but we do put our podcast up here, and that is our number one source of communication. So if you have any questions, any comments, please head on over to our TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, find our video, leave a comment down below, and we will reply back to it. I'd love to hear the feedback. May not like them all, but I'd love to hear them and engage back into the community. So please sure to do that. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Have those notifications on. Enjoy your guys' weekend. I know it's been cold out there, man. You know, it's a busy weekend. We got FC Cincinnati taking on Miami. We got Cincinnati Bearcats just a few games away before the end of their season. And they have an opportunity to go to a bowl game. That's what I'm rooting for. They have to kind of finish strong in their conference. And we'll see if they're capable of reaching the bowl game, or better yet, the college football playoffs. Ooh, that's exciting. So we'll take another look at that next week, hopefully. Like I said, next week is going to be a short week as Thanksgiving comes on a Thursday. We won't have a podcast promoted on a Thursday or Friday next week, but we will be here Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, anything coming out of the Reds organization. If that, I know the Cyclones will give you an update and all that fun stuff. So be sure to tune in next week. Just because the holidays are here doesn't mean we stop providing content. You guys stay warm, stay dry. I mean, I think I'm planning on going out to the Cincinnati Zoo this weekend and checking out those Christmas lights. That will be a fun sight to see. Absolutely. So, all right, that's all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, you guys have a wonderful weekend. Take care.